Finbond is a Pretoria-based bank offering deposits, credit and insurance solutions. And I'm sure you can give us a little bit of the history here.
Yeah, the guy that is associated with it is Willie van Aardt, who was a Potchefstroom University, or what do they call it now? Northwest University, professor, starts this business. But they're doing a whole lot of things. They've been growing rapidly and are now expanding into the payday loans business in the United States of America, believe it or not.
Market cap 2.2 billion rand, a PE ratio of 15.9 and a dividend yield of 1.1%. Does the status quo change when it comes to Finbond, which is considerably smaller than Transaction Capital, which was sitting at around about that 8 billion rand level?
That's right. Oh, it absolutely does change. You're worried about these things, right? Small caps, lower liquidity. It's on a 16 times PE, which seems expensive, but actually from where it's come, it's not that expensive. So compared to historically. But in financial services, it's a numbers game, right? In the last results, they increased profits by 177%. And like those kind of staggering numbers are interesting and almost attractive.
What has it done to the share price graph? Let's have a look at that.
That will look solid. It came out of nowhere before. But it has grown its business, which is small loans. It's the typical scenario. A new player in the loans business off a low base, it pays good interest to those people that have provided its capital.
When did that earnings number come out? So we said that they had grown their business. Just come back to that stat.
Turnover by 177%.
Turnover by 177%.
Yeah. And then, of course, they bought the US payday business, payday loans business, and they're looking to get at least 50% of revenue from the US. So it's a nice rand hedge play, actually, if you think about it.
Are their margins holding up?
That is the question. And what is the trend and where it's going? That really is the difficult question. I'm a little bit lukewarm on this one, almost undecided.
Paul, can you swing it?
Look, so the way it works is that if you are a depositor, in other words, a provider of funding to Finbond, then you get paid something in the region of 9 to 10% on money that you loan to them. So you can understand how attractive that is to long-term savers. If you're on the other end of the business, you get charged for short-term loans, well in excess of that, but of course there's a bad debt write-down issue. So with that model in place, they've expanded substantially over the period of the last 5 years. The expansion to the US is interesting because payday loans, that's short-term again loans there, have a bit of a bad reputation in the US.
Well,
as you
also
can imagine.
as you say, they charge excessive. Is it excessive interest rates?
Well,
I mean, what are we talking? This is not loan shark status, is it?
Well, as you can imagine, there are all sorts of people on the spectrum. The shortest, nastiest, most expensive mashonisa guy in the streets is not going to be where you want to be. They are sort of in the middle, charging very high rates of interest on very short duration loans and obviously giving only more money to people who indicate they can pay it back.
But still regulated by our appropriate regulator in this space.
And of course there's been a lot of lessons learned in this environment. The other interesting thing is Sean Riskovitz, a US South African investor, has picked up a big stake in this entity, somewhere in the region of 30%. And he has other US financiers behind him looking for these kind of small cap growth stories. I don't know if you've got a view on him or not.
I don't really have a view on him, no, but I know it's positive for the business. So I guess we could look at it that way.
Potentially a 10-bagger of the future here?
Not for me, I'm afraid.
Not for you. We're not hot?
Well, it's interesting you put it like that, because this is either another African bank in the making or it's another Capitec in the making. I mean, I know those are rather stark extremes. They may, of course, simply do okay, but never really
So are we looking at a red and black scenario?
I think they've got some talent. I'm not sure I would have done the US expansion. Normally when companies do that, it's because someone in the business, perhaps Mr. van Aardt himself, wants to live there. I'm not sure if that's the case.
Well, we're going to get into so much trouble if Finbond management is watching the show. But we welcome you onto the show and come state your case.
I would say not hot. I think it's just a little concerning that you're growing so fast, yes, but doing a big, hairy acquisition globally is and brings with it currency and other risk issues.
Not hot across the board.